So, in this video, I want to take you through a question I hear all the time, which is, can resentment make a dismissive avoidant shut down completely? And if so, what is that resentment made out of? Like, where is it coming from? How do we solve for it? And when I say shut down completely, does that mean they're ever going to open back up again? Or are they shutting down and ending their relationship to me, perhaps forever? So, the first thing that you need to know is that resentment does not form at random. Resentment is not this like random thing that just, arises all of a sudden out of nowhere. Resentment at its root causes has so much to do with unmet needs plus a lack of communication about those needs that then often triggers painful stories or beliefs. So I'll give you an example. Let's pretend I'm a DA and let's pretend that I have a really supportive partner who's always trying to meet my needs. And maybe they're trying and maybe they're doing their best, but maybe they're anxious, right? DAs and APs often get together. So maybe they're more anxious leaning. And so they're constantly coming to me to try to meet my needs, but sometimes they're meeting needs that they would need and not as I would need. And this is one of the most common occurrences in a relationship is that even if somebody is trying so hard to meet a need, usually until people are doing a lot of self-awareness work, we're trying to give to people what we would need in a situation rather than seeing them as different individuals from us with different programming and different needs, and then really seeing like what their needs would be as them instead of what we would need if we were them in the situation, right? And it's a huge difference between sympathy and empathy is what it really boils down to. So when we, get into this dynamic or situation, what commonly takes place is, a dismissive avoidant can have somebody who's really trying to support them, but they might have a whole bunch of unmet needs. Now, dismissive avoidants do not have modeling for co-regulation growing up or for two partners leaning on each other in an interdependent way to meet one another's needs. It's not really something that's modeled to them much at all. And so dismissive avoidants have this big belief block because of how they were conditioned by their environment. And that big belief block says to them, hey, guess what? Everybody's up for themselves. Everybody's supposed to just rely on themselves and meet their own needs and then spend a little bit of easygoing, light, non-committal time together. And that's how relationships work. And that's their belief system about relationships largely because that's what they were conditioned to believe by their environment. Now, what ends up taking place is that a dismissive avoidant, like any other human being, when they get into a relationship, they will have needs from their partner. They're just not consciously aware of them. They may need a little space sometimes and need to communicate that. They might want to feel like they are understood or that they have freedom or autonomy. They might want to be acknowledged when they do show up well in the relationship. They might want to feel supported in ways like XYZ, right, that are specific to the person. So there are a whole bunch of needs the DA has across the relationship that they don't know and essentially that they're in denial about. And so what ends up taking place is they'll get into relationship with somebody else. They have all these unmet needs. And then what do we say the core causes of relationships are? Unmet needs, lack of communication. You can't communicate anything if you don't know what's going on, right? If you're not consciously aware about something in the first place, how can you possibly share it with others? So we've got that set of events taking place. And then on top of that, the lack of needs being met, lack of communication, eventually minds make stories about events. That's how the mind works. The mind does that as a subconscious strategy to gain certainty, one of its basic human needs. But what essentially takes place is it's like you go into an event. Let's pretend I'm a DA having that experience. Maybe I tried really hard to be kind to my partner on our anniversary and be thoughtful. And maybe that was a huge stretch for me because that's not what I saw growing up. And maybe my partner didn't really acknowledge it. And I might have had a need for acknowledgement or to be understood that that was, a lot for me. And that was me being vulnerable and it wasn't easy. And then eventually the mind makes a story. Oh, well, they just expect things from me then all the time. They'll expect things from me endlessly. No matter what I do, it'll never be enough. And now I feel scared and trapped. And the mind gives meaning to things it can't understand because it makes us feel safer, right? When we have more certainty, oh, it must be this. And so the mind's constantly doing that all throughout the day, and stories cause suffering. So now I see my partner through this image that I've made that says this partner will expect everything from ever. Forever. They don't appreciate me. And no matter what I do, it'll never be enough. So I can't sustain this relationship. It's too much. It'll be too hard. And I went from like just having a need that was there, to now I see my partner through this whole different light. And this happens to us as human beings all the time. And it's very connected back to our programming, to our core wounds, our fears, our beliefs that we've been conditioned with from childhood that are stored there subconsciously. So when we have this dynamic unfolding, we get really stuck in this situation. And can resentment then make a DA shut down? Absolutely. I see it all the time. Will they shut down forever? Here's the real answer: they will shut down forever if they don't deal with root cause. When you deal with root cause, when you learn that you have needs, when you learn to reprogram your fears about about like expressing your needs and being able to open up and be vulnerable, so it feels normal to do so. And when you are in a position where you're doing that, it's like an emotional antidote to the storytelling because you're talking about things in advance. We have a whole course you can check out for free about this. I'll tell you a little bit more in a second, but we have a whole course you can check out for free about this. And it's called our conflict resolution course. It helps you learn what your needs are and how to communicate them. And if you don't have the ability to do this, it's very hard for a relationship to work effectively or to last, because so much of the reason that we get into relationships is an exchange of needs at a subconscious level. Your conscious mind might be like, it's for love, it's for all these things. Well, then you're needing to be given love. And your love languages or needs that make you feel loved are what you're getting in there for, right? So this is part of what makes a relationship flow. And when we don't know this and we don't realize we have needs and we don't know how to talk about them, it like stunts the natural flow of energy between partners in a relationship in a way that's conducive to the relationship lasting. So it's just like one of the most important things. And you can check out that course for free for 7 days using the link below and use that coupon code for a discount off if you also want to apply that, if you want to stay beyond that 7-day mark. So anyways, that's all there for you. And then, when we do that work and learn to communicate and we can share those things and we deal with root cause and we go unpack, hey, these were these needs that I had and they weren't being seen and heard. And the way we felt emotionally, when it can be validated, then we can actually deal with things retroactively, and unpack past pain points and resentments and frustrations and start what I like to call emptying the resentment tank and actually getting rid of some of that stored resentment that enables our relationships to get back on track if we're struggling. Now, this doesn't just go for a DA. This is for every attachment style ever. But as a general rule, I see DAs and FAs struggle with the ability to communicate their needs the most, which is a big part of the reason I made this video for dismissive avoidance, or loved ones trying to understand a DA, of course. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in future videos.